Hello, hello. Welcome to the Dating Boutique TV. Today we're going to talk about a topic that I see often as a matchmaker. And I want to ask you, are you self-sabotaging your love life? Because I see it very often with singles. Actually, this week has been crazy because everybody I've talked to I've seen signs of self-sabotage in the dates. So I thought this has to be addressed because there's so many great singles out there. And if you're self-sabotaging your relationship or your dating life, then you're not getting anywhere. You're like on the hamster wheel, repeating the same patterns over and over with no success. And it's a horrible pattern to have. So as a matchmaker, I've got to tell you all the raw truth of what you need to do because I see it very, very often. Just this week alone, I have talked to several clients that have totally self-sabotaged their dates, or the date self-sabotage the date. So, and I can see it as a matchmaker. As soon as someone starts talking about it, I can immediately identify what's going on. So self-sabotage is when you're like consciously or unconsciously trying to sabotage a relationship, a date, or even the potential of a date. You don't even have to be on the date. It could just be like the potential of finding the one, and you self-sabotage yourself. And it comes from different things. It comes from fear. It comes from, it could come from past relationships. It could come from poor self-worth. It could come from your childhood, trust issues, unrealistic expectations. It's a huge one I see. And immature relationship skills. People that don't have the relationship skills to create and find a healthy relationship. And then a lot of times, and I do see it a lot of times with people that have experienced hurt, divorce, infidelity in the past, and they're scared subconsciously. They're scared to be hurt again, and they'll self-sabotage a relationship before they give it a chance. Or they could be in a relationship, self-sabotage it a year in, 2 years in, and something triggers them into thinking, I need to sabotage this before it continues, before I get hurt, even though it could be a wonderful relationship. And I have to say that I was guilty of this too years ago, and I had to identify it. I'm like, and a friend called me out about it. A guy friend actually called me out about me. He identified something that I was doing. I was in a relationship actually with my now husband, and this is early on in the relationship, and I really liked him. Of course, we're married now. Of course I liked him, but I started to see, or my friend started to see me do this pattern because I hadn't liked a guy like this for a long time. And he was like, Amanda, you're trying to self-sabotage this relationship. Just see what happens. Don't try to protect yourself from getting hurt, and just see what happens. And when he said that to me, it was like a light bulb went off, and I realized what I was doing, and I had to adjust that thought process, which I'm going to teach you all how to do that today. But it is a huge problem when it comes to singles and relationships, especially if you've been hurt before. It's an easy thing to do. It's easy to run from something just to protect yourself. It's kind of like human nature sometimes. So I have to keep my water next to me. I'm very pregnant, guys. So I'm going to have this baby probably anytime now. So I have to keep my water next to me and keep myself hydrated. So anyway, okay. So some ways to identify if you're self-sabotaging your relationship is to look for some key things. Like if you have trouble, let's say, finding a healthy relationship or finding a long-term relationship or keeping one, that's another one. If you have trouble keeping a relationship, these can all be signs of self-sabotage. It might not be self-sabotage, but if you'll start to identify patterns and how you respond to relationships. And then you can identify what you're doing to create this relationship that's not working, or it doesn't last long, or you're not finding the one. So when you start to put those patterns together, you can start to identify that. Okay, so It may be, if you have trouble finding the right type of dates, it could be a form of self-sabotage, that you subconsciously go to a certain type of person to protect yourself from getting hurt, or you go to someone who's emotionally unavailable. So you kind of automatically know subconsciously this is not going to work. So you protect yourself from finding someone that you're actually into and could create that long-term healthy relationship, that marriage. So you're already like subconsciously doing this. Or if you have trouble with limiting beliefs about relationships, about dating, that could be a form of self-sabotage to protect yourself. Like if you say there's no more good dates out there, or online dating sucks, or whatever it is, limiting beliefs are also an indicator of some type of subconscious self-sabotage. And that's with anything in life. It could be business, money, family, relationships, your health. So you subconsciously kind of already set yourself up for failure. And so you're self-sabotaging yourself from finding success in relationships, in finances, in your health, the whole picture. So if you find yourself with these limiting beliefs around relationships, dating, that's a form of self-sabotage, because your mindset is not going to create success. It's already setting itself up for failure. So if you say there's no more good men out there, then okay, you're going to be right if you keep saying that to yourself, because you're automatically setting yourself up for failure. So even if you procrastinate too with dating, that can be a self-sabotage, because I see people, they're not taking the action behind finding someone. They're not taking the action by being consistent with online dating. Even in the matchmaking world, I've had clients that are not consistent. They will send them a lot of great dates and they won't be consistent with us, and they won't follow up with the dates. So they're self-sabotaging themselves and their dates, because they're not taking the action to create results. So I recently had a client that we sent a lot of great potential matches, and this client in particular would not go out with any of them. This client also said that they were, attractive. They had all these great qualities and really didn't have a reason for not meeting these people. And I felt like it was definitely a self-sabotage technique that I see with singles, that they will procrastinate, they won't communicate, they'll put something off just so they avoid doing the action. So this person had automatically self-sabotaged themselves from potentially finding love, from potentially finding a really, really good match, because we sent really good matches to them, and just kind of put a stop to their love life. And it was really frustrating as a matchmaker, because I can see how great these people are, how great these potential matches are for this particular person, and they're not taking advantage of the opportunity. So, God can give us opportunities all day long, but if we're not taking action on those opportunities or prepared for those opportunities, then we're going to self-sabotage ourselves. So when opportunity presents itself, you take it. It might not be when it comes to relationships and dating, it might not be the right person, like the right, let's say, package of what you think it should be. It might not be, there might be something that you're like, well, I just don't have time for this, or I'd rather be doing this, or, there's just so many excuses that come into our head, and it comes with relationships, business, all kinds of things. But we make these excuses of why we shouldn't follow up on this action, and it ends up hindering us in some way. So this is how it limits us and keeps us back from finding the one. And I've done this in different things, like in business, for example, or friendships or opportunities. But I always listen to that nudge to move forward, because I could be keeping myself from a great opportunity. And I could have done the same when I started dating my husband. When I first met him, we met online, and the night we were supposed to meet, I had friends going down to the river, and they were boating and having a great time, doing a summer party, and it sounded like a blast. So I told myself, okay, I was like, okay, I'm gonna meet him from like 2 hours, and then I'm gonna go meet my friends. And I was kind of almost hesitant to go because I was starting to self-sabotage that situation. But I ended up going to meet him. Just had a nudge to go meet this guy for a drink. I went out and met him. We ended up talking way longer than 2 hours. And here we are today, baby on the way, married. That was years ago. So it's so important to get out of your comfort zone, step out and do those things so that you put yourself in a position to potentially meet someone. And even when you start to self-sabotage and keep yourself from getting out there, or even ending a relationship, it's important to identify that. And we'll go into that more. But if you find yourself procrastinating about online dating or being consistent with people that you are dating, or let's say you just procrastinate with doing the things that you know will help you find the one, then you're going to hold yourself back. You're going to create that atmosphere of self-sabotage, and you're going to create that pattern. So another thing, how to break the patterns of self-sabotage. How do you break it? How do you get out there and break it? First is becoming aware of when you self-sabotage. Another example, I had someone do they had a match, and they based meeting this person off a few facts, excuse my dogs, a few facts about this person. But the facts aligned with everything this person was looking for, okay? So this particular client wanted, let's say, A, B, and C. This match had A, B, and C, which was really hard to find, okay? But they just based it really off of nothing. And I have immediately identified it. I'm like, this is fear. They're self-sabotaging themselves because they are creating these unrealistic expectations in their head, or these unrealistic thoughts and ideas about a match. And they were going against what they should do. And they decided not to meet this person based on really nothing. And it was a really great match. And it was a hard match to make because of the qualities and the preferences, physical traits, all that stuff that this person was requesting. And when I found it to the T, this person self-sabotaged himself before even seeing a photo, before even anything else, because of some limiting beliefs, fear-based thoughts. They immediately just decided not to meet this person without taking a chance that this could be their one. And that's self-sabotage, guys. And so becoming aware of when you do that, when you do these patterns, it could be anything from, like, another example. I had another date this week with clients that they, I have to say it without giving away information, but the date, not the client, the date immediately started to pick a fight. It was only like their third or fourth, fifth date or something. Started to pick a fight about something very ridiculous, and ended up just bolting out of the date. I could immediately identify that something was triggered, and this person felt like they didn't have control, and they needed to self-sabotage this date, this relationship before it got any further. Even though they really liked this person, had great feedback about this person, they were really excited about moving forward, but they created this ridiculous fight to pick with this person that was kind of out of nowhere, so that they could self-sabotage and leave the situation and leave that relationship. So I see this all the time, or that someone might, trying to think of some other examples. They'll pick a fight, or they'll make things up in their head about the relationship just so that they self-protect themselves and get out of that relationship before they get hurt because they're afraid of getting hurt. So how to break these patterns is, one, to identify and bring awareness to when it happens. What is that trigger when you start to self-sabotage yourself? Is it not being consistent with online dating? Is it like ghosting someone? Is it not showing up to the dates? Is it like picking fights? There's so many different triggers, like not being consistent with the person you're dating, not returning the calls, there's so many different things. So make sure you start to become aware, or when limiting thoughts become pop up, that is when you can identify that and bring awareness to that, you're at the first step of breaking that self-sabotage pattern. The next step is to heal whatever is causing that. We all have these things where triggers can come up, but the secret is we identify them immediately and we put them in the place they belong so that we can move forward and create success. So we have to heal ourselves from the past, any past relationships or any triggers that come from past relationships. We have to heal ourselves from any limiting thoughts, any beliefs about relationships, love, and dating. And then when those triggers come up, because they will, even when you do go through the healing process, but when you're healed from it, you can immediately identify that I'm triggered by that. So where is this coming from? Is it coming from my current situation, or is it coming from my past? So when you identify that, you have the ability to move forward quicker and faster and create more success for your life. So once you can do that, and I have a lot of techniques, but I don't have time to go into that today on how you can heal that, and especially heal those limiting beliefs and those triggers so you can get to the next place and create success. So after you do that, it's important to become clear about what you need and want. So when these triggers come up, and maybe let's say you're dating someone, you know exactly what you need and want. Maybe you even make a list of that. So you know your like top physical needs, top spiritual needs, top mental, emotional needs in a relationship. So when these triggers come up, you can look at this and say, okay, is this just something triggering me, or is it something that I can move forward with? Because every relationship has its ups and downs. It has its arguments. It has its disagreements. Not everything's going to be perfect, but that's part of the growth process. So instead of running from it, you identify, okay, is this like messing with one of my core needs or wants? Or is this something that's triggering me that I need to heal from and work with my partner, or work on with my partner? So when you have that clear list of what you need and want in a relationship, and I'm not talking about unrealistic expectations, I'm talking about those core things that create a long-term relationship. Not how tall he is, not how much money he makes, what creates that core long-term healthy relationship. And if those needs are being met, then you can identify, okay, this is probably a trigger. I'm probably trying to self-sabotage something. Why am I doing this? And what is the next step going forward, right? So you have to be clear about what you want, your expectations, but don't make them unrealistic expectations. And once you do that, and if that's still not working, if you're still having trouble with it, which it's okay, a lot of us do, it's important to seek help. So it's important to seek help from maybe a dating coach or a counselor, but so that you can identify these triggers and that you can move forward from them, because they're holding you back. You wouldn't be on this channel if you were in a relationship, right? If you were with the man of your dreams, you wouldn't be here watching me ramble on about self-sabotaging relationships. Or maybe you're in a relationship and you're identifying with this because maybe some triggers are coming up and you find yourself wanting to run. So if you have identified that triggers are coming up, then you're in a good place because you know that's what you need to work on, right? So if you stop self-sabotaging your love life, because if you're repeating yourself over and over, you're just creating frustration in your life and you're not going to find the one. You're going to miss chances on finding some really great experiences and finding some really great dates if you don't get out of that self-sabotage pattern. Okay, I have some great resources on this and some coaching that you can take advantage of. Go to datingboutiqueinc.com, look at the work With Me tab, the resources, the courses I have. There's so many great resources on how to overcome this problem and this dating block in your love life, because you can do it and you can move forward and you can find the love of your life.